I want to welcome our listeners and viewers back to our second part of a two-part podcast with Inez Birbiglia from Skytesting Civil. I am Paul Boyce with PWGC Consulting, the CEO and president of the company, as well as your host of our podcast, our monthly podcast, The Environmental Echo. But shifting gears a little bit, you guys are a woman-owned business enterprise, or better known as, in the consulting world, as WBE.
That is right.
Very important. How difficult was it to achieve that certification?
Well, I should say that I'm a New York City WBE. I'm pending New York State,
okay.
and that is the answer to your question. I'm pending 2 years.
Wow.
The state is terribly slow in reviewing. They largely do it through a website, and there's not really conversations you have with people. New York City was very tough. They want to make sure that you are running your business, that you're not, it's not under someone else's name or a husband's name. They put it in their wife's name. They want to make sure that you're really, and they vet you. They really do. The vetting process was about 6 months in New York City. Personal tax returns. I mean, they go back and back and back.
Wow.
To make sure that you are actually there. They'll come interview you. They'll talk to your employees, your clients. So I've been through the process with MTA and the Port Authority. I wanted to get the DBE certification I was looking for. They are even more stringent. New York State is just very slow. And, I'm on a board for a women's organization, a Women in Construction, and almost all of them have already achieved that certification. And they got it years ago when it was a little bit smaller of a form, and, they have to renew it every now and then. I find that I don't have time as a small business person to sit there and keep looking at it. I don't have a law firm. I don't have, a group of people to work on this. So it's a long period of time. And just so you know, I've been fast-tracked, and that's 2 years.
Is there an end in sight? Did they give you a schedule or a deadline when you can expect it?
You don't. All you get is these announcements. You're notified that it's in process. Once in a while they'll ask for some additional documentation, but you don't know when it's going to happen. So that being said, New York City, with as much criticism as New York City can get, they were very efficient. The people were thoughtful. They were forensic. They were smart. They were polite. And they did a very good job. And I received it. I was thrilled. It was tough, but fair. So that is what has helped me. And I think that because the state is so slow, some of the projects that are outside of New York City are willing to accept the New York City's certification as, their WBE person.
So being in New York City WBE and hopefully soon in New York State, how has it benefited you and your company?
It's funny. I'm on lists. All of a sudden you're placed on lists. People are looking. So you have these public projects that need to meet goals, whether it's through minority-owned business or women-owned business or service disabled, whatever the category is. And there are not too many women-owned special inspections company.
I can't think of any besides you.
No, there are a few.
You're probably happy about that.
It's very few. And so you're on this. So now you're approached for pricing on things. And you're maybe getting access and awareness to projects that you typically would not be at the table for. And so that's a good thing. I recently just did a project here on Long Island for a sewer district. And they were looking to have a goal, I think it's 15% of the project be met by a woman-owned business.
Yeah, usually it's a split minority woman, 15-15, right?
That's right. And the architects sort of almost did a joint venture with me and applied and won because they were able to sort of round themselves out with my designation. So
very good.
That was work that, came to me a little bit more easily because of it.
Well, that's I think either Nick or myself, when we had lunch not too long ago, brought this up. We used to work with a woman-owned business engineering firm, civil firm, and she explained to us, I don't have to do any marketing. The phone rings off the hook just to, because people have to meet those goals or those criteria, project criteria, and she did not have to do any marketing. And Nick, being a marketing guy, was probably his head was spinning. I
wish. I hope that's I'm not quite there yet, but I do know, like I just finished a project with SUNY Maritime, and beautiful building right under the Frog's Neck. We just finished it. It's really quite spectacular, and this trains the students, and right next to the submarines is very cool. And they were not looking for a goal at the time. They didn't need to with that particular project, but they have some other work coming up where they would be, and they'd call me first, let's say, or at least invite me to the table. And I still have to have good pricing. I still have to be able to perform. I can't be some fly-by-night thing just because I'm a woman. But I tell you, it does help, especially as a small business. And you have to be a small business. Once you get to a point where you're so lucrative, you lose your status as certified. You can't be, you don't need that help anymore.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
When you get a certification like that, a WB, an MBE, how long does it last?
I don't know. The rules are a little different. The one from the city I had is 5 years.
Okay.
But when you go to renew, they are going to be looking at your net worth. And if it's grown to the point that's beyond, the initial, well, you're no longer really eligible.
You don't qualify. Okay.
Correct. I don't really remember what the goal is. I want to say it's like 15 million or something, but
That's decent size, for sure.
Right. But do you really need help with a certification when you're at that level? That's kind of how it's judged.
So you could renew it indefinitely as long as you didn't get to a certain size?
Yes, as long as you're meeting the criteria. And they change it from occasionally. I know that was a frustrating. There was a few ladies I know that own bonding companies that tried to renew during COVID, where they can't even get anybody on the phone, and they lost their renewal. I know someone who just wasn't recently renewed, who's had it for almost 15 years. Nothing has changed in the company, and they denied her for some reason. So it's an interesting. I think they've struggled with how to do it, and I'm just hoping I get there. It's been a lot of my effort.
How long have you had the New York City certification?
Oh, about a year.
Okay.
About a year.
So we got 4 years before we get a check back in?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's see.
We'll have another podcast then and see how you're doing.
Sure. Maybe I'll be worth $20 million and I don't have it anymore.
Listen, that would be fantastic. Right? But, back to the business itself. You mentioned you do inspections and testing for soils, concrete, mortar, steel. What do you guys really like to focus on? If you were stuck to do one service, what would you say you do best?
That's a tough one. I'd like to say concrete only because the majority of my people, everyone has to have concrete. That's the first certification. It's American Concrete Institute Field Technique, ACI 1. Everyone has it. This coffee cup will have it. You must have that when you walk in, besides OSHA. And we get a lot of requests for that. And so that's easy for me because I have a lot of people that can do it, and I can be very nimble, and I can, it's also usually pretty finite. The truck comes, you do your testing, you make your samples, you do everything you need to, and then you leave. So with soil or asphalt, you're there all day.
Oh, yeah.
That's an all-day thing. So you have to think about, your resources, and if you're going to be able to free someone up and give them another job. I mean, dispatching people, that's another thing. We are currently working, doing steel almost every day, structural steel inspections, cold formed, welding, bolting for Sunvet Mall.
We've
been, I know, it's around the corner.
That's you guys, huh?
Yeah, that's us guys. And we're doing very well with that. That's an expensive inspection, and that's a top-level person. I have SUNY Brooklyn. We're building an extension on the hospital. It's like SUNY Stony Brook Hospital, but SUNY Brooklyn. Yeah. And that's a 3 weeks of welding straight. So on one hand, it's lucrative. On the other hand, you have to have the right person. It's expensive to employ them. So soil is great. I have nuclear Troxler gauges. I had to get a nuclear license for that. Yeah. And I have to build a special room for that. So that's another whole level of licensing that I had to do. So again, it makes its money back. Each one of those machines, I just bought another one for $9,000. They're not cheap,
I can't imagine they are. If they've got a little radioactive source in them and everything else.
And we have to have the dosimeters so that we,
film badge or the little...
the little, they look like...
You read it? Looks like a pen almost.
Yes, exactly. And we mail it away, make sure there's no exposure. And so there's a lot that goes into not only running a lab, but having the right equipment, having it calibrated, having the capacity, having it on your scope for your accreditation, and having the right talent and people with the certifications to be able to perform those. But now just upkeep, maintenance.
Yeah.
It is a lot. And the lab to me is not a great generator of money, but you need it in order to support your field inspections. So I know there's some groups that don't. I personally think it's easier for if a client is calling and they're building, they're going to want to know that, both the materials testing lab and a special inspections firm in the same, call.
I can feel your pain. As an environmental engineering company, a consulting firm, we have got a ton of field equipment, right? And just take the drones, for instance. We fly the drones. We've got to have insurance. You got to maintain these things. You got to buy batteries that never last, and all sorts of stuff that goes on the ground. The expenses can get really out of hand, And as a smaller business, you guys have to be real careful with that.
I do. It's not just, you can't just, let me just get an extra one as a backup. You might only have one. It might just be the one, and this is your baby, and you have to really, like a pull testing machine, these things are so expensive, and it's like, do I need more than one? No, but to have that one, it's a lot. And we just purchased last year a PA detector, and it measures the thickness between a metal substrate, like galvanization or paint thickness, and that machine was about $900. It's paid for itself 10 times over, but that, you lay it out, you have to have it calibrated, and you hope and pray it'll be in use. And then you market that. I do this now.
But you only have one.
You have one. Don't ask me to do 2 jobs that day.
Or if it breaks.
So, right. But we, and one of the things I've learned is that we're all in this unique field. There's plenty of other firms, and we all work with each other.
We do.
I tell you, they're competitors, but I have hired many companies to support and supplement my existing staff, and I've been the sub to firms all last summer, for instance. And so it's a small world, and you definitely cannot burn bridges here.
Nope, it's good to have friends. It really helps. So we mentioned some of those areas that you guys do the testing in. Are there any other markets you guys are looking to expand into?
Well. You mean industries or services?
It could be services or different types of clientele. What's on the horizon for you guys?
Right now, we're building a 120,000 square foot warehouse with tilt-up panels.
Yep.
Warehouses. They're
going up. It's like
I don't know why
mushrooms.
we need this many warehouses, but we have them. We must have a lot of stuff.
We're reaching saturation.
So so that's a new project for me. I had not done one of those, and I'm in line for another one. That one's right in the Brookhaven Industrial Park, like the Economic Development Zone.
Oh, we know where it is. Yeah.
You know where that is, right? You know where that is.
Oh.
And the other one is in Inwood. So I'm looking at JFK.
Okay. Western Nassau.
Yeah. We have, I was probably in over 50 school districts in the last year, mostly athletic fields, bleachers, a couple of additions, parking lots, sidewalks. That's what schools do when they're shut down for holidays. Yeah. That's just capital work. And Jake's 58. That's a new one for us, and that started last week. So that'll continue.
It broke ground on that pretty quick. Here we go.
Exactly. Here we go. Like I said, SUNY, some colleges. I'm actually the exclusive for Fordham University and their campuses, New York Tech, Old Westbury, and Manhattan. So all great stuff. I wish I could tell you. Oh, the water districts. You would know about that. There's so many in Nassau, and they need our
dozens,
services. Yeah. So that's kind of what we work on as a small firm. I can't say there's one industry over another. See, people will say, "Oh, look, I'm an expert in healthcare." Okay, certain environments and sensitivities, but really, the soil is the soil. The concrete's the concrete. The construction is. We're not doing interiors, we're not there when the patients are there. There's certain things. So we're doing okay. I love work on Long Island. I know Long Island, but unfortunately, the city work is, it's too hard to pass up. So.
Okay. Well, we're getting close to the end here, so hang in there. But, along those lines of those projects, since you've started your own business, what's been your most favorite project or your most notable project?
Well, honestly, without sounding sappy, we did the Navy SEAL Museum over at West Sayville.
Yeah, the Maritime.
Well, it was the Michael Murphy. Navy SEAL,
yeah.
And they did it sort of on the grounds, and they had a special inspections company, and they just really couldn't afford it, the nonprofit, and so many people donated their service. We donated all of our service for over about a year and a half. Every inspection was no charge. We're very proud of that.
That's great.
So that was a special for us, and they did everything: fireproofing, the concrete, asphalt, steel, you name it.
I did not know this.
Yeah, that was a
I've
good one.
seen the museum. I've been down there.
It's beautiful.
And
You should see it.
for our listeners' benefit, this is we're right after Memorial Day weekend here in 2024 having this conversation. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that was my favorite. That was one of my first projects. So.
Oh gosh, I'll share. Mine was and most people that know me, we did St. Patrick's Cathedrals in Fifth Avenue, Manhattan, the geothermal system. We've dedicated a whole podcast to that. I mean, that was for me,
Wow.
a crowning achievement to work at that level in New York City with the different teams and the different people that were involved, from the Cardinal on down. The Pope eventually came and visited, but I never got to meet him. But so I can.
Wow.
We didn't do it for free though.
No, I don't know. I mean, that was just a feel good in general. You felt good about it. We got to meet a lot of the families, and everybody just thanked you every time you were there. Thank you so much. That it was just very rewarding.
Absolutely.
And I was proud when it opened. Like I said, the SUNY Maritime project, I love that. The Seamanship Center, it's very iconic. It's an unusual looking building. I love every project we work on. I love to work, and I really do.
I can relate. Absolutely.
I do. Every project's a little different. I like people. That helps. And you know what? We're growing at a pace that we're happy about. I just, we don't want to take on anything too crazy and too large, but one day we'll be all over.
You'll get there.
No doubt.
Hopefully we'll be working there with you. We've got stuff coming up.
So.
We won't talk about that, but hopefully we got some projects on the horizon together. I'm excited. But outside of work, we mentioned it looks like you enjoy a variety of activities, right? A wide array, from playing in a band to boxing. So what do you attribute these varied interests to?
So my father had a heart transplant when I was a kid, and then he had a kidney transplant a few years later. And we've always been on like a health watch with the heart, and so I've always been told, do cardio. But cardio can be kind of boring, unless you're, the steady state stuff. And this came up I love kickboxing. One of these little boutique places, I'd gone to it. And I really got into it. And I really got into more of the boxing end. So I started taking lessons, and I love it. I feel like it's a great workout. And when COVID happened, everyone's missing their gyms. And I love my gym too, but it's calisthenics, it's push-ups, it's all the basic stuff that you didn't need a gym for. And it was great. I loved it. I got my certification online, and then I was able to do that in a gym once gyms reopened. So I would spar. I entered one competition, and that was enough for me. It's just for fun. And I love it. It's what I like to do. I've been playing piano, guitar, singing. I mean, kind of everything. My son and I will play together, and I do that as a fill-in. And when I have time. I haven't had a lot of time in the last couple of years, but that's what I like to do.
As you mentioned, you wear a lot of hats at the business, so that's got to be taking up a lot of your time these last couple of years. But hopefully it does. You still stay grounded with what what matters and it's important to you, and you get to enjoy it. Right,
like you. I know you have your interests outside of work, and you have to. You'll lose yourself completely if you don't.
Yeah. Well, I've been sidelined for the last 2 months. I broke my foot, so I haven't been able to surf, and it's like I'm on borderline depression at the moment. But I'm healing, and I'm going to Hawaii in a month, so I'm looking forward to it.
That's going to just cure that, no problem.
As long as I can get up on that surfboard, we'll be okay. But Inez, I do want to say we're at the end, but is there any topics we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about, or any other issue that we should bring up, something you want to get out there to our listeners?
No, I just would say, this sounds like a plug, I know, but you don't have to be a big, gigantic firm to give quality service. And am a very small firm, but I have over 25 years of experience doing what I do. And sometimes you get that when, and it's surprisingly a little diamond in the rough. So we are personal touch. We are able to answer the phone directly. And at that point, I hope we never lose that. And that's the goal. So don't disregard the little guys. That's all. That's my message.
Again, I can relate. When I joined PW Grocer, I won't go, it was decades ago at this point, but we were 5 people. I was the 5th employee,
wow.
and it was the same. We didn't have cell phones back then. The internet was not a thing yet either, and we were just getting going. But we were nimble, we were responsive, professional, and that did suit a lot of people, and it helped us to get to where we are today. So yeah, you don't want to lose that if you can.
Yep.
That's a very good point you brought up.
Thank you.
All right, but I do want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Again,
This
Inez
is great.
Birbiglia from Skytesting Civil, inspection, the special inspections company that we're looking forward to working with very shortly in the future here. Again, this is the Environmental Echo. I am Paul Boyce, and to our listeners, as we started off again, how to get a hold of us, www.pwgrocer.com/podcast. And I want to thank everyone for taking their time today to listen and join us, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Environmental Echo. Thank you.
If you would like to contact Inez, please call 631-902-3594 or visit Skytesting Civil's website at www.skytesting.com.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of PWGC's Environmental Echo. You can download and listen to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or by visiting our website, www.pwgrocer.com/podcast. For more content like this, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode.